Good morning, student. Welcome to the fourth lecture of unit number 2. In the previous lecture, we have seen what is semiconductor memory. In that, particularly, we have discussed about the static RAM, that is SRAM. So, this is static RAM diagram. This one is the static RAM diagram. And the same diagram, that is CMOS implementation, is this. So, here you have two inverters, that is inverter 1 and inverter 2. These two inverters are shown as CMOS transistors here. Okay, so the first inverter, that means this one, the first inverter constitutes transistor T3 and T5. Okay, so this is one inverter constitutes transistor T3 and T5, and the second inverter, this one, the second inverter constitutes transistor T4 and T6. It means that here we have transistor T3, here we have transistor T5, we have transistor T4, and here T6. Okay, so these two inverters are cross connected. Now here these are cross connected, so here transistors are also was connected. Okay. Now let's say the cell is in state 1. Now let's consider your cell is in state 1. Now when this cell is in state 1, let's look into the previous diagram. When cell is in state 1, x will have a value 1. When cell is in state 1, x will have a value 1. So this inverter will have a value 1. Okay, so this inverter will have a value 1 on this side, and will have a value 0 on the another side, as it is inverter. Okay, so this is T3 and T5. It means that in this diagram, when your cell is state 1, your T3 is 1 and your T5 is 0. Okay, because T3 and T5 constitutes this inverter 1. Okay, now similarly, this inverter is T4 and T6. Okay, so this is second inverter. So when this cell is having value 1, x will have a value 1. So this side will be 0. Okay, now this 0 comes to here, so your y will be 0. Okay, the same value will be given here, y, that is 0. And the complement will be given here, that is 1. Now this 0 comes here, that means your T4 is also 0 and the complement is 1 here. That means T4 and T6. Now your transistor T4 is 0 and transistor T6 is 1. Okay, it means that T3 and T6 is on, T4 and T5 is on. Okay, so when cell is in state 1, the voltage at X is high, that is 1. T3 and T6 is on. T4 and T5 is on. Okay. Now using the CMOS technology, we have some advantages like low power consumption and higher speed. Okay, so this CMOS requires 5 volt in older version. It requires 5 volt supply, but now in newer version, it requires only 3.3 volt power supply. Okay. So the read and write operation remains the same as we have seen in the SRAM single memory chip implementation. So next we will see the merits and demerits of using static RAM. So, the merits are low power consumption, static RAM can be accessed quickly, memory access time for SRAM is very less, so the data can be accessed quickly and it does not require refresh circuitry. Why? Because we are giving a supply, but you have to make sure supply is given always, as it is a volatile memory. And the demerits are, it is a volatile memory. It means that you always have to give a supply to it, and once the supply is off, your data will be lost. Okay. The second demerit is that high cost. as you can see here we are using 6 transistors, that is the here we are using the transistor T3, T4, T5 and T6 and T1 and T2 also. Okay, so here we are using total 6 transistors and that's why it is a high cost. Okay, so this is about the CMOS implementation of SRAMs. Okay, now in today's lecture, along with this CMOS, we will discuss about the dynamic RAM. As we know that the RAM is categorized into two, uh, two parts, that is static RAM and dynamic RAM. Now static RAM we have seen in the previous lecture and today we will discuss about the CMOS. Now what is static RAM? Static RAM, it is a memory which can hold information as long as power is supplied to it. Okay, so it is also called as a volatile memory. Volatile memory SRAM. Okay, so they are really fast because their memory access time is less. It takes only few seconds to get information from SRAM, but they cost more area and they are more expensive. If you have a static RAM cells, each cell consists of 4 transistors, that is P3, P5, P4 and P6. So if you have a static RAM cell, each cell consists of 4 transistors, so they cost more area and they are expensive. So less expensive memory can be implemented by using simpler cell, but these cells cannot return their state indefinitely. And such cells are called as dynamic random access memory, that is DRAM. So they are cheap and area efficient because number of transistors are less in this particular cell, but they cannot retain the information indefinitely unlike static RAM. Okay. So this figure shows a single cell in DRAM. Now this is a single cell DRAM as this is a single cell SRAM. Now let's see single cell DRAM. So if you look into the diagram, it consists of one transistor and single capacitor. So the information is stored as a charge on this capacitor. And the information stored in the form of charge on the capacitor can be maintained only for 10 milliseconds. Okay, the information can be maintained only for 10 milliseconds. So what we have to do is we have to periodically refresh this particular cell. We have to periodically refresh this particular capacitor in order to keep information for a longer time. So the cell has to be periodically refreshed, that is DRAM. Okay, so this is the internal organization of a cell in DRAM. A similar diagram we had learned for static RAM also, but in static RAM we have 2 bit lines, that is B0, B0 dash, B1, B1 dash. Okay, the combination was there, but now when I'm talking about DRAM, now into this particular chip, in DRAM, we have a single bit line, that is B7 only. We don't have B dash, 1 dash and 0 dash. We don't have this bit line in dynamic RAM. Okay. The race diagram is same for static RAM and dynamic RAM, but in dynamic RAM, we don't have this complementary bit line. Here we have only a single bit line. Okay, so now looking to this particular chip, it consists of many cells and cells are arranged in form of rows and columns. So all the cells are arranged in the form of an array. It consists of several rows and several columns. So if you take first row, if you take this is a row and this is a column. So if you take first row, each cell in this row is connected to a common line. Now each cell in this row is connected to a common line and this line is called as word line. This line is called as word line denoted by W0. Okay, I think you know about this concept now because we already learned about static RAM. If we are taking a single each memory cell, these are the single memory cells. Each memory cell is connected to a common line, and that line is called as word line. Okay, now this first row connected to a common word line is denoted by W0. Now look at the second row. All the cells are connected to a common word line, that is W1. Okay, that means how many rows you have, that much word lines you will have. Now looking to the cell in a particular column. Now let me erase this all. Now looking to the column. Now these are the columns. All these cells are connected to a sensor right circuit. Okay. We don't have this complementary bit line in dynamic RAM. Now bit line B0, bit line B1 up to bit line B7. These all bit lines are connected to a sensor right circuit. Okay. Through these bit lines. Now bit line is represented by B, that is B0, B1, B2 up to B7. Okay, so we have different columns denoted by B0, B1 up to B7. So all these cells are connected to a sensor right circuit. Through a bit line B. From the sensor right circuit, data is given to your system. So it goes to a bus. Now from the sensor right circuit, the data is given to a system bus. Similarly, if you wanted to write an information to a particular cell, the data from this bus is moved to the sensor right circuit. From the sensor right circuit, it goes to a particular cell through this bit line. So this is the internal organization of dynamic RAM. Now I am going to take one particular cell and perform read or write operation. So if you take this one particular cell, now what does this cell have? It is connected to a word line, same as static RAM. It is connected to a word line. It is also connected to a bit line, and bit line is connected to a sensor right circuit. Now this bit line is connected to a sensor right circuit. Now look here. Each single memory cell is connected to a word line. It is also connected to a bit line, and each bit line is connected to a sensor right circuit. Now here we are considering a single memory cell. Okay, so here we have a word line. We also have a bit line, and each bit line is connected to a sensor right circuit. Now from the sensor right circuit, it is connected to a data input or output line. Okay, now this sensor right circuit is connected to a data input or output line. From data input and output line, it is connected to your system. Okay, now this sensor right circuit is connected to, this is data input line, this is data output line, and these are connected to a computer bus. Okay. Now let's see the read and write operation. Now here I am showing one particular cell. Now let's see read and write operation. Now cell consists of a transistor. Now this cell consists of a transistor and capacitor. The information is stored as a charge on this capacitor. Now first we will see a write operation. When we have to write something, the first thing that we have to do is we have to activate this particular cell. How do you activate a cell? We have to activate word line, and word line will activate a particular cell. Okay, so when word line is activated, this transistor is on. Okay, Now there is information. The information is there in the system bus. Okay, here is your information. So this information through the data input output through the data input line goes to the sensor right circuit, and then sensor right circuit, from sensor right circuit to this bit line we will write the information into the cell. Okay, so now here sensor right circuit pass the information. Sensor right circuit, for example, we have to write one from the system bus in from the system bus the input line given this information to a sensor right circuit, and from the sensor right circuit it goes to bit line, and from the bit line it goes to here. Okay, now since this transistor is on, this information is stored in this capacitor as 1. So you passed it to get charge voltage supply on the bit line. So this is how you write something to a DRAM. So first activates a word line. When you activates a word line, your transistor is turned on. So whatever the information is there in the bit line, through that particular voltage, the capacitor will be charged. Okay, so this is a right operation. Now we know the capacitor has properties charging and discharging. So once information is there, it is there only for few milliseconds. That means now you are written 1 to the capacitor and the capacitor gets charged. Okay, but this information is there only for few milliseconds. Why? Because capacitor starts discharging. So before it completely discharges, to store information, to retain that information over there, you have to do a read operation. So this is the read operation. This is the read operation. Again, we have to activate word line. When you activate the word line, this transistor is turned on. And now this cell, and this bit line stores the same information. So whatever is there in the cell, now in your cell there is a 1. So whatever is there in the cell is passed to the particular bit line. Now whatever is there in the capacitor is passed to a particular bit line. Now there is 1 in your capacitor is given to the bit line, that is 1. And from the bit line it is given to the sensor right circuit, and from the sensor right circuit it is given to the computer bus. Okay. Now we'll check the value of the capacitor. Now if the value of the capacitor is greater than the threshold voltage, then this bit line will have a value 1. Now your capacitor now 1 and 1 is given to the bit line 1. Okay, that means your capacitor is greater than the threshold voltage. Okay, and your bit line becomes 1. So the software circuit, the sensor like circuit senses particular voltage of this capacitor, and if voltage of capacitor is greater than the given threshold value, then value on this bit line is going to be 1. Okay, now your bit line is going to be 1 if capacitor value is greater than the threshold voltage. And if the capacitor voltage is less than the threshold value, let's consider now your capacitor is 0. So if your capacitor is less than the threshold value, then value on this bit line is going to be 0. Okay, so this is how we read particular information from this cell. Now, how do we do this refreshing? So here it says contents must be periodically refreshed. So this refresh operation is done. So if we do a dummy read of every cell, and that has to be done periodically, that means continuously that has to be done. So when you again read something, so it goes and check the value of this particular capacitor, and the value of capacitor will be there in the bit line. So if it is 1 again, this capacitor is charged to its fullest value. So before it moves less than the threshold value, the capacitor has to be read again and again. So in this way, we do a refresh operation. So this write operation, and this is a read operation. So in both the cases, we have to activate the word line, and when we activate the word line, the transistor is on. So when you are doing a write operation, the information on the bit line is transferred to this capacitor, and capacitor is charged. When we do a read operation, what was there in the capacitor? If it is greater than threshold voltage, then value 1 will be seen in this bit line. And if the voltage of capacitor is less than threshold voltage, the value 0 will be seen in the bit line. Now, let's see difference between static RAM and dynamic RAM. In static RAM, bit stores as on or off switches via flip-flop. In dynamic RAM, bit stores as a charge in semiconductor capacitor. Here, information is stored as on or off switch via flip-flops in static RAM. Next one is there are no charges to leak in static RAM, but here capacitor charge leaks, so the information gets lost. So before the information gets lost, we have to refresh that particular cell. Then here, no refreshing needed when power. In static RAM, the only condition is cell has to be continuously powered. But here, in dynamic RAM, the condition is it has to be refreshed. So even if it is powered, it has to be periodically refreshed. Then in static RAM, the construction is more complex, but in dynamic RAM, construction is complex because it consists of 4 transistors, but in DRAM, the construction is simpler because it consists of a single transistor and single capacitor. Then next difference is that area is larger per bit, and here area is smaller per bit. Then does not need refresh circuits, and this needs a refresh circuit after every few milliseconds. Again, it's on the number of transistors that is being used. Then next difference is that static RAMs are faster and dynamic RAMs are slower. So in static RAM, information can be accessed faster. Usually, static RAMs are used to build cache memory, and DRAMs are used to build main memory. So this is the basic difference between the static RAM and the dynamic RAM. Then dynamic RAM memories are again categorized into asynchronous DRAM and the synchronous DRAM. So here is asynchronous DRAM. The timing of the memory device is controlled asynchronously. The timing of the memory device is controlled asynchronously. That is, the system clock does not coordinate or synchronize the memory accessing. So when accessing the memory, the value appears on the input or output bus after a particular time. So first, personal computers, they will be using asynchronous dynamic RAM. So here this particular memory is not connected to the system clock. So there is always a delay in asynchronous dynamic RAM. Second point is that the device connected to this memory is responsible for the delay. So if processor is connected to the memory, then processor is responsible for that particular delay. So there is always a delay for getting the information on the bus. Now here, the address lines are divided into two parts and multiplex as upper half of address and lower half of address. So you have a higher order and lower order in the address. So single address is divided into two categories: upper half of the address and lower half of the address. The upper half of the address, it is loaded into row address latch using row address stroke signal. So in the address line, whatever address you see higher, the upper half of the address, it is stored in a latch, row address latch using a signal, row address stroke signal. After that, whatever the address is there in the address bus, that particular address is lower address is taken lower half of the address and it is loaded into the column address latch using column address stroke signal. So that is the address lines are divided into two parts and they are multiplexed. So address lines are divided into upper half of the address and lower half of the address. Upper half of the address deals with the rows and lower half of the address deals with the column. As we know that memory cells are organized in the form of array. Array means collection of rows and columns. So upper half deals with the rows and lower half deals with the column. So in the single address, two parts are taken, upper part and lower part. Upper half denotes a row and lower half denotes a column. Now let's see. Asynchronous DRAM, it facilitates a memory of 16 megabit DRAM chip. That means 16 megabit is organized as 2M by 8 memory organization. This 8 denotes 8 bit of information is transferred at a time. That is 8 bit, or we can say that 1 byte of information is transferred at a time. Okay. Then we know that cells are organized in the form of array, that is in rows and columns. That rows and so let's see the design of this 16 megabit DRAM chip again. It is configured as 16 megabit means it is configured as 2M by 8 organization. So this is 16 MB cell DRAM. So if you see, it has these many rows and these many columns will be there. So this is the organization, and again all these cells are connected to a sensor write circuit. Sensor write circuit at the time 8 bit of data, these are the 8 bit lines. So at a time 8 bit of data is transferred to this data bus. Okay, so this is internal organization of DRAM. Just to explain what happens with the address line. So let's say you have 21 bits in the address line. So let's consider you have 21 bits in the address line. The upper half 9 to 20 address, it is given to the row address latch. The upper half, that is this 9 to 20 address lines, it is given to the row address latch through a signal, row address stroke signal, that is this RAS. Similarly, this is the lower address, that is 0 to 8, that is given to column address latch to a column address stroke signal. So it will come. I will come to the this diagram later. That I want to show you how multiplexing is done. Next, now design a 16 megabit DRAM chip, that is 2M by 8 memory organization. So the 16 bits can be written as 16 and M stands for the mega, that is 2 to the power 20. So this is the 16 megabit DRAM chip internal organization. It is also called as 2M by 8 DRAM memory organization. So the 16 can be written as 16 as it is 16 M bit organization. The 16 can be written as 16 and this M stands for 2 to the power 20 bits. Now what is 16? 16 means 2 to the power 4. So how many bits you have? You have 2 to the 24 bits. Okay, that is the capacity of the DRAM chip. Now we have to design such a DRAM chip. Again, I told you a particular cell or the particular chip is divided into different rows and different columns. And this, how do you divide this 2 to the power 24 in the equal number of rows and equal number of columns? It is 2 to the power 12 rows and 2 to the power 12 columns. Now, what is this 2 to the power 12 in by 2 to the power 12 is equivalent to 4k into 4k. K is kilo. That is 2 to the power 10. Kilo means 2 to the power 10 and 4 means 2 to the power, it means that 2 to the power 12. Okay. So this is 2 to the power 12 by 2 to the power 12 is equivalent to 4k by 4k. Now how many rows are there? There are 2 to the power 12 rows. Okay. That is 4096 rows are there. Now, how many columns are there? Remember, when we are writing the number of columns, always looking to this organization given. It contains 2m by 8. Okay, that is 8 bit of data is transferred at a time. So you cannot address a single cell. You have to address 8 cells together. So when you are writing a column, obviously it is 2 to the power 12, that is 4096 to the power 12. It means that 4096 divided by 8. Okay, now this 4096 divided by 8. So you have basically 512 columns and each column consists of 8 bits of data. Now look here. How many rows are there? There are 4096 rows. Okay, 4096 rows are there. How many columns are there? There are 512 number of columns. Okay. The number of columns and each column consists of 8 cells. Now here each column consists of 8 cells. So this is basically a arrangement of DRAM chip. A given DRAM chip is a 16 megabit capacity. So it has 4096 rows and 512 columns. Okay, 4096 rows and 512 columns, and each column consists of 8 bit of data, and this data is given here. It is given to sensor write circuit. Now this data is given to sensor write circuit. So D0 to D7, this D0 to D7, that means 8 bit of lines are passed to this data bus. Now we have to see how many address, how many bits are required for representing row address. Obviously, we have to write the address. So how many bits are required for writing a row address? Let's say it's how many bits are required for row address? Let's say it is log base 2 to the power 12. So to how many bits in the row? How many rows you have? How many rows you have? You have 2 to the power 12. That means 4096 rows you have. Okay, so log base 2 to the power 12 bits. That is 12 bits are required for row address. Now let's see number of bits required for column address. So if y is equals to log base 2 to the power 9. So 2 to the power 9 means how many bits you have in the column? You have 512 number of bits. So 512 means 2 to the power 9. So how many bits are required to represent the column? 9 bits are required to represent the column address. So now address bit is equals to x of higher order plus y of lower order. So it is 12 plus 9, that is 21 bits are required to address n bits. Okay, so A0 to A0 to A8, 9 bits are represented for the column, and A9 to A20, these 21 bits are required, these 12 bits are required for to represent the row. So you require total 21 bits. Now let's see here. Point number 3, that is the 4096 cells in each row are divided into 512 groups of 8 cells. Then that means a row can store 512 bytes of data, 12 bits to select the row and 9 bits to select the group of 8 bits in a row. Total 21 bits are required. Higher order 12 bits are for row address and lower order 9 bits for the column address of a byte. Then first apply the row address, that is row address stroke signal, that is the row address, and then apply the column address, that is column address stroke signal, that is the column address. Okay, so this is a dynamic, asynchronous dynamic RAM. And this is the internal organization of 2M cross 8 memory, that is 16 megabit memory set.